here for Black History Month events, and I know we're talking about it as a Black History Month event, but I think of it as a Human Month event, as humans coming together. This month we acknowledge this particular group of humans that I happen to be a part of. But it's understanding that we all come together every day in the community, right? The title for our event talks about this idea of taking work to be together as humans, right? It is care, compassion, understanding, empathy, all of those things that bring us together. So I'm grateful that you're here with us in community. I'm grateful that you decided to brave the cold weather and be here with us. And I am so grateful that our guest, Amanda Johnston, is here with us as well. My name is Johnston. I'm the department chair of the creative writing department, and I love these opportunities to bring us all together. In particular today, we want to talk about the work of being human. Now, our guest, Amanda Johnston, is the Texas State Poet Laureate. And then this stuff is huge. It's an amazing bio, and I feel like I probably cut off another page of the bio. I don't know if there are enough words to talk about the amazing work that this human is doing. She's the founder of Torch Literary Arts that uplifts the work of Black women artists, but it uplifts all artists, right? You're a multi-genre artist, photography, poetry, screen, essay. I don't know how you encompass all of that art in your skin, but I'm grateful that we're here and able to do it. Now, something amazing that Amanda Johnston did is this project called the Praise Song, right? And I was looking at a few artists. And the idea behind these praise song works were to extol the virtues and uplift the people that we see every day in our lives. The people who were around us, living, who deserve praise. And once I got to see the project online, I was amazed by all the ways that we saw other people, the way we want to praise other people, the bus drivers, the barista. We forget about the people around us sometimes. We get so busy in our lives. And this project reminded me to look at everyone, to make the eye contact, to acknowledge everyone in front of me, around me, in that space. Now, Amanda has asked me to read the poem that I submitted for Praise Song before she gets up and talks to us a bit about it. I'm from farmers on both sides of the family, Southeast Texas. And I was thinking about how we measure time. Here in Central Texas, it's difficult to measure time. I mean, I know we're having this winter storm right now, but in 2 days it'll be 85 degrees, right? We have a hard time determining when it's spring, when it's summer, well, summer's forever, when it is winter. And it seems difficult to measure the time on a calendar that everyone else seems to acknowledge. And I started thinking about who are our timekeepers. Now, I was thinking about the birders, who are timekeepers, right? The people who are watching for the presence of these birds, to acknowledge there's a new season of birth, right? This season of passage. My poem is entitled Eruption, an I, an E, and eruption is a sudden increasing numbers. He says, look, and I do, because he's always been present, like creation myth, like before primordial mountains, before he and I were proto, before free, would have been there when the dog was being punched and I stood too close. Like pebbles to the face, would have been there to yell, goodbye. And Atlas and the river poplars, when another one said, don't know how to love you, but I do. He wants to show me a mastery, and it's hard to ignore the Jesus references. He's side-lit by 2 p.m. morning light, lips parted, almost a murmur, almost a prayer. He points an explorer's finger. There. Brown-breasted, I am full of blackbird anger, but knew the truth he spoke, painting the underhangs of my house blue, inviting the sky to be a home for me. Trust the flap of pages like wings to light on, here, turn, and there, a frenzy of motion, a hawk. In his eyes magnified, I see he is closest to flight. Since we've been on this pellet of bones and skin dust, the 63 zeros nest, claw, and cast, evidence of those beyond dragon-filled waters. And I wonder each year if it's this magic he seeks, a feather among the hissing mushrooms, a marker of existence in this land of lost moisture, clear clouds, hunters and watchers silently knock at leaves and buzz. When he says, look, I open myself to more. So maybe other topics about race, about the work of being humans. And we may ask you to be involved in some of that work today. Please help me welcome Amanda Johnston.
Thank you so much, Prudence, for sharing your poem and for introducing me and welcoming me here. The HBC was my first college entrance to higher education. Yeah, go Riverbats.
Welcome home.
Thank you. Proud Riverbat since 1996. And I walked these halls when it was a home, getting into all kinds of big trouble. As a young person, but it's beautiful to see how it continues to grow and shape generations, right? That this space still holds us in a very particular way now as part of ACC, but the history of this place is still here. It's also very meaningful to me to be here during, yes, Black History Month, but always to acknowledge the history of this land and space that we're on. So how many of you, I just want to see you know that this is a former freedom colony. Yes, it was here in St. John's area, this area of North Austin, so formerly enslaved Black people, descendants of enslaved Africans, created a free colony here. So that's a very specific and important part of our history that we should remember, especially during Black History Month, but always the Fruit said we're humans, and it's empowered to share history. You know where you're at, right? So before I get to the praise song poems, I wanted to just share a couple poems, because I am a poet, that's what we do, write poems. And it's important to know too that when I write, I am the I. Your very wise and brilliant instructors, faculty members will tell you not to assume that I is the poet or the author, right? So I'm telling you, yes, me. I can only write through my lens. So the poems that I write come from my direct lived experience or something else that I've observed, or even if it is a persona poem, it's taking on the voice, presence of someone else, it's still coming through my lens. So there's no way that it can be completely separate from my personhood as it's coming through. The next one I'm going to share actually is for Phyllis Wheatley Peters. Raise your hand if you know who Phyllis Wheatley is. I guess. So Phyllis Wheatley Peters was kidnapped from her family in the Senegal-Gambia region of West Africa in 1761 by enslavers and sold in Boston when she was about 7 years old. She is considered to be the first African-American author of a published book of poetry. I am in a direct line, as well as students and all other Black women writers of Phyllis Wheatley. We are able to do this work now because of her endurance in the most unimaginable time, that she still found a way to set herself free and to inspire others through her poetry. Also, this Black History Month theme is labor. Right? So African Americans and labor is the national theme. So the title of this poem is "This Too Is Work." I know who I am, but these white men want me to show them, prove I am a minister of their tongue. They sit me down and say, write, and I am already the poem they seek. stole away from my homeland, far from the green hills and great winding river that rise and fall with each line I summon from my throat. This is dangerous work, creating verse beyond their understanding of my being. I perform on the edge of peril. They pontificate and praise themselves for what they have done to me, what they've shaped in their image and sound. But I know who I am. I have a secret name tucked in my cheek. It sharpens the razors I hide in each syllable they greedily chew. I write a feast and feed the world the devil's delicacy. I cook the poems and write myself free. But continuing on the idea of labor. Will I work when I'm dead? For Kun and Nefer at the Nelson Atkins Museum. My body classified art of the ancient world. 2,500 years after I stood in the land of Kemet. Museum onlookers gawk at my tightly wrapped remains under glass, far away from the promised lands of the afterworld. Sticky fingers mark where humanity becomes oddity. Are you entertained? I have a secret. Panenefer isn't my name, but then again, my truth is not my opinion. No, I'm feeling this really odd experience when I go to a museum and get to the mummies, right? And in a way, we're standing there looking at a person who was mummified, and I'm sure 2,500 years ago, did not think they were going to end up on display in a museum. Where would we be in 2,500 years? Hopefully you've learned something more about respect for each other and kindness. This next poem is titled On the Other Side for the Children of Gardner Beds. Who here knows the Gardner Beds? Okay, Gardner Beds, if you're not familiar, is a youth detention center, the youth prison, and it's right down Congress. So if you've ever been in South Congress, all the new shops and things, they call it Zoco. You probably passed Gardner Beds, so you didn't know. On the other side. From my window, I see the children's prison. Juvenile detention sounds softer than it is. A younger version of me, pregnant and full of fire, sat in that box, weighing my future and unnatural order of things. What a waste. One teacher shook her head upon my withdrawal. Just another insert stereotype. If only her mother, if only her father. History repeats itself again. My daughter churning inside my womb. 30 years later, on the other side of the street, I watch from the opulent hotel as little futures are pushed down the pipeline of forgotten children. I lean closer into my reflected eye, see the gritty residue of the past speckled across my face. For that poem, I was a teen mom. I was pregnant with my daughter when I was 16, gave birth to my oldest daughter when I was 17. And I was always a really smart kid, and tested out of, secondary school at an early age. I actually started at ACC, like I said, in '96, 2 years ahead of my graduating class. But I did that and was motivated to because I had a newborn child. I had a little girl I needed to take care of. But as you can imagine, while I was pregnant, teenage girl, and I missed a lot of school. And there wasn't an exception, a place. Like I saw the sign out there as I was walking the hallway. Support for childcare, support for all the resources and things that it takes to actually attend school. So we were facing a really, terrible choice at the time. You know, my mother was being threatened with fines and imprisonment, and I was being threatened with fines and imprisonment while I was pregnant at just 16 years old. There were arrangements made and alternative, programs that wagged their fingers at me, and I was one of the lucky ones who got to live that way. But that building still stands, and there are children as young as 11 years old in grandparents. This next poem is about the serial bombings that happened here in Texas. Do you remember that? Okay. It wasn't that long ago, right? 2018, you want to say? I did a reading in Houston, and it's a pretty large audience. There were only 2 people in the audience who were familiar with the serial bombings happening here in Texas. So part of my manuscript that I'm working on now, called Active Threat, has a section in it that addresses the realities that we face here while that serial bombings were happening, and we were living in a very divided Austin. The poem is called It Begins. What does a bomb sound like when everything is exploding? The coffee pot dripping into morning, the early buzz of cars heading into or returning home from the world, life and its constant breath, in and out, small bursts of the day to day, but then a loud note cuts through a quiet street, announcing a new threat, now awake and hungry. There's a lot to write about that, but I do encourage you to research that. Search serial bombings, Austin, Texas, and see what you don't know. Happen right there. Let's see here. I should read a few more poems and then I will talk more about praise song. When my daughter wasn't assaulted, she shook with fear, or was it guilt, at the officer's unraised hand and smile. How she leaned away slowly when he called a tow truck instead of backup. How her tears fled when he showed mercy over rage for the couple on the side of the highway, flat tire wasted against asphalt. She couldn't help but look at her white boyfriend pacing along this strip of road and wonder, what if this was a different part of Texas? What if this hero was a different shade of power? Would she be so lucky, or was it luck, if the absence of a known pain is just a heavy hand in repose? So that poem, my daughter called me hysterical, and I don't think that really likely. She was crying and screaming, and I couldn't make out what she was saying. She's terrified, like, from the receipt all of that. And she finally was able to take a breath and say what happened. She told me they had a car police came, and I said, what happened? What happened? And she said, nothing, but it couldn't. And in that moment, I knew my duty, not just as her mother, but as another human being in the world, was to recognize the legitimate fear that she had after witnessing so many interactions with police force that ended in death, that ended in assault and tragedy. So sometimes what we can do is show, I mean, not sometimes, always what we can do is show up for each other. But as poets and artists too, my poems and my artwork is very witness. To say, I see you, I believe you, I hear you, happen. We are not long after Valentine's Day. And I always feel like even in my activism and my organizing, right, and having to address or being compelled to address and speak on difficult subjects, Where does that come from? Love. It all comes from love. A deep, burning, unwavering love for my family, for my people, for all of us, that everyone deserves a better world to live in, a better existence, a better way to show up and care for each other. It comes from a place of love. And I wrote this poem. This is the last of other poems before I get into the praise song poem. I wrote this poem and shared it as a special portfolio with the Poetry Foundation for the anniversary of Fire and Ink Conference, which celebrated Black queer rights. And as a Black bisexual woman living here in Central Texas, I was fortunate enough to be at that conference. So, fun fact, this is my first and so far only poem in the Poetry Foundation's catalog, and I'm so honored that it was to be there because of my people and because of love. This poem is called "This Is Love." A friend once said, "Love just means you'll be there." I remember hospital rooms, machines humming softly with life, doctors with thin percentages of hope and heavy brows, the late nights alone in a parked car screaming into the void, how we empty ourselves of grief and climb love's dark staircase, just to hold hands, just in case. So we as human beings are remarkable, right? We have so much to be grateful for and to be joyous with and in together, even while so much tragedy and terror is existing in the world. That can be overwhelming, right? But I think about all that my ancestors, my grandmothers, the people who have existed on this planet have not just endured, but lived, thrived, and celebrated each other through. And I'm in awe, right? Like we're all miracles sitting here, truly. We're stardust floating on a rock, it's real. So for me, when I get overwhelmed, I start looking for the very small, everyday moments of awe and gratitude that should be praised. So when I was named Texas Poet Laureate and received a fellowship from the Academy of American Poets, I knew immediately that I wanted my project to be statewide, to impact the lives of everyone here in this beautiful state of Texas we call home, represent our diverse and intersectional community, right? And also celebrate everyday people. So poets were everyday people, but this is one of the tools that we have to write poems to share that we can give people their flowers in real time. And that's a powerful thing to do. It's something we don't do often enough. We give people their flowers after they're gone. And we can change that, right? Give everyone their flowers. Tell your friends, their people, you love them all the time. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. We are a beautiful and incredible species. We're people. We're connected just by being. Right? What a beautiful thing that we should celebrate and lean into. So I've invited 70 poets across the state to write poems celebrating everyday people here in the state of Texas. You heard this incredible poem at the top of it. But I too have been writing praise poems. You can learn more about Praise Song for the People, which is the full name of the project online, praisesongforthepeople.com. My poems are not there because I feel it's my duty as poet laureate to amplify and celebrate others, right? So at the end of the project, I will share one poem. But I have been writing poems of praise every day that there has been a reading for the Praise Song Project. So as a way for me to, one, always be looking for opportunities of gratitude and joy that are happening every day. Be vulnerable to not let the work be precious. You could write a poem on a napkin, share somebody this week. That's fine. So I've been writing these poems and then sharing them on the day of those readings. So I preface that I don't promise the poem was good. I just wrote it that day. But that's not the point. The point is the sharing and the praise, right? So these poems, I'll say, I did have a little bit more time to work on because I did write it today. So I want to share 3 praise poems. We've had 3 readings, so I've written 3 praise poems. The first one is Praise Song for Saint Andrea of Taco Bell. I wrote on November 29th, 2024. You don't see the clouds I carry, the storm of the day, difficult weather beating upside my head from a place I can't name, but need shelter from. When I go to the nearest place that will take my money and let me sit alone in a booth in the corner of nowhere. And there you were, Saint Andrea, reading my face like stars. I look up and your smile of gold caps on each tooth lights up my world. You okay? You say, and I say nothing. Don't have to. The help my heart would have called for came right on time. They say you never know what someone else is going through. All human, all have ups and downs. Choose kindness, lead with love and kindness. The same way that you would like to receive it in those moments. They can say hello. Next one's called Roadside Attraction. October 30th, 2024. On I-35, you're bound to see it. A car on the side of the road, a flat tire, smoking engine, some major inconvenience on the way forward through time and space. Rubberneckers walk, mumble, poor thing, and keep on keeping on. But more often than not, a car or truck pulls up behind the one in need and someone crawls out with a concerned brow and helping hands. The tire is changed, the tow truck is called, a gas can magically appears, and all is moving again. More often than not, we say yes when asked, do you need some help? More often than not, we see each other without judgment, questions, dividing line. We cross the median and come to the shoulder. Praise those who come when called. Praise those who come heart first. This last praise poem is Back Crossing. 10 million bats, 20 million little wings flutter out from under the Congress Street Bridge in the blue-pink ombre dust. The photo in the Austin airport captured the moment so perfectly, I had to take a picture. In the busy, frantic airport traffic, millions of little feet about to soar stop and fumble with my phone. Apps, angels, my tiny desire to witness. The man sees me, stops and waits. A flock of people move around us. He waits, and for a few seconds, we hover on a tiny cloud of kindness. I get the shot, and we float on. Praise the little moments of seeing. Praise the pause and patience we share in the pixelated moments of life. I want to end and I'm going to give you all a little writing exercise. So you guys can write it. Everybody got something out? Okay. Pull out the phone, notepad, but that's that last poem. I was on my way to Dallas, and in the airport, we heard the poem. So I see the picture, I think the photo, and all of this. But that little moment of kindness, where the man had patience instead of referring around me, yeah, I put it up to be right next to me on the plane. I mean, seat directed next to me. And we weren't anywhere near the gate, so there was no way to think, oh, we're about to go on the same train. But there he was. And now think about what if that interaction was salty, needed some kind of way, hurried, agitated. We're very close to each other. Okay? When we don't see it, it doesn't seem like we pay attention. We're very close to each other. It happened again then when I was leaving the cabin. I flew to Houston. I was going to see the Houston Texas game, Texas, with my husband. And there was a couple sitting behind me on the airplane. And, you know, when you get on the airplane, sometimes people are a little rushed. And you're like, why are you getting up? The plane just landed, you know. But I found myself getting frustrated, like, what are you doing? I'm in the road for you. And I checked myself and I said, calm down, we're all gonna get off this plane. Maybe they need to get off the plane before you don't know why. I mean, you don't know what someone else is going through. So I took a breath and then the man helped me get my luggage down. Kindness. We got off the plane, everyone did get off the plane, in a stadium of 70,000 people. Who do you think was sitting right behind me? That couple. Was sitting right over my right shoulder. So it was like this divine sign of that, no, that thought you were having about us being close was real. And just to, you know, swing that right on home, there they were. And again, choose kindness, choose joy. This world that we share, and Mary Oliver said, you know, what are you going to do with your one wild life, right? Wild rich life, you get to choose kindness, choose love. All right, we're ready, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes, you know, it doesn't come easy. Again, the idea of labor and this is work, right? We work not just for the writing, but work for how we exist in the world. We make choices all the time, and you have to put thought into that. But sometimes it can be hard to think, I'm really going through it right now. I can't think of anything to praise or be grateful for, not right now. When that happens to me, I try to do one of these three things. So I'm gonna read them out and pick which exercise you wanna do. And the first one is, think of people in your life, right? Just people in your life. It's like a free write. And you start writing their names down. Doesn't matter if they're family, classmates, friends, anyone, but people in your life. And then write 3 moments next to them. 3 moments that you shared with them. That's gonna give you the reason why that moment is stuck in your head is because something happened, even if it was a challenging moment. Look at the steps and actions that people took around you in that moment. And I promise you, someone showed up. Someone was loving. Someone was kind. Someone showed care. And even if it's not the first person you thought of, why did that be, right? So list the people in your life and then write 3 moments. And then think about the details of those moments. You'll find gratitude and praise there. The next is, okay, if that's too much, you start thinking about someone that you really don't want to write about right now. So we're not going to go there. Let's focus on right now. List your day, today, from eyes opening to this moment right now. List everything that happened. And then next to it, write the praise for that. And I can do something like, I woke up this morning, praise my eyes, open to the day. I was in a bed. Praise the bed that held me through the night. I'm in a home. How cold is it outside? Praise the heater. The warmest room, right? And you can go through that motion, right? And really see how many things there are there through just today, the sunny color, that are worthy of praise. And if you didn't happen, if that didn't happen, I promise you, your day will look a lot different. And there's someone somewhere in this world. This is not even verse us, but just perspective, right? There's someone in this world who will take this. Praise those things every single moment of the day. And then the other is to think of an encounter specifically with someone you don't know, that you haven't met, right? Someone in the last week. And again, it can be something that was a specific engagement. You went somewhere, you met someone, you knew you were going to see that person, but you didn't know them until that moment. Or it could be the cashier at the convenience store, at the grocery store. It could be the Uber driver. It could be Laureate, you take someone today. But someone that you didn't meet before, and then write down what that interaction was. And look for moments of gratitude and praise in that meeting. Our most powerful tool is each other and community. What we can do together is limitless, right? But when we do it with love, when we do it with care and kindness for each other, that's when we're tapping into something else that is the true power of us. That's my belief. And as a poet and artist, I feel like our work is only stronger when we operate from that place. Thank you.
I thought it was interesting that you gave that first option of three things, because I hadn't really thought about the way I set my poem up. Right, it knows the point about the three things. And I found sometimes stuff it'll be because there's three things as well as you. How do you do this? As an artist, as a writer.
Well, I mean, I'm a poet too, so I don't think it's very surprising that I could be in awe of, the glory.
You noticed my pretzel socks.
I did notice your pretzel socks, which are awesome. If you haven't noticed her pretzel socks, I mean, come on, it's right in my neck. As soon as I saw that. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, that is not just another praise song poem, by Mag Gabber, who is the Dallas Poet Laureate. She shared a beautiful poem called Bright Spots, and it is a poem about the doctor who's been treating her mother's cancer. It's a short poem, it's one short stanza, but it is full and overflowing with hope and inspiring, describing this doctor going from room to room in the hospital, writing the treatment plan for patient after patient, giving their families hope, and doing it all while wearing fragment of himself. Right? So yeah, that's what gets me through the day. There's a lot of noise right now, right? The sky is falling, the sky is falling. I promise you it's not. The world is not ending. And we have so much to still celebrate and lean into with love that's my default. That's my default. Think about the most, again, unimaginable circumstance. I mean, I read about Garden Beds, right? There's joy still happening in Garden Beds. There are people making art, there are children making art in Garden Beds, singing songs, being kind to each other, right? And that happens over and over again in the world. So who am I not to embrace and celebrate the joy that I feel, and that I get to witness in this wild world.
So thinking about yourself as poet, as Black poet, how are you approaching this Black History Month?
Tuesday. I mean, what I mean by that is, like you said at the top, yes, this is Black History Month, but with Black every day, the culture don't stop or start for 1 month. So it's really about getting to highlight what we know and love about Black culture that, I get to experience every single day. But sharing that and amplifying it with our larger community, because it is American history, right? And not just history, but futures. History is happening every single day. A dear friend who said, we don't realize the gravity of the history that we are making in the present because we're in it, right? But everything that's happening is a moment, a historical moment. So what are we doing with this moment, this time, on this not Tuesday, but Wednesday, for Black history, Black futures, but our collective experience? Yeah.
So when you're asking everyone out here to work on their praise works, oftentimes when people are approaching creative writing, because we have a creative writing class here, in members of class, there seems to be something out of society that says that it is beyond people to be artists, that it is beyond people to be writer, like it is a glorified thing. Responses to that? I mean, we've got all these programs, creative writing programs that kind of weed people out, like how do you approach the art? How do you tell other people to approach the art?
Well, number one is to don't confuse your art with capitalism. Those are two different things. Your productivity is not the purpose, right? So if you take a class, come here, you study with these incredible faculty, I hope you're doing it first for yourself. That's what matters most. First, do it for yourself. Heal a part of yourself. When I'm writing poems, the first thing I'm trying to do is grapple with, get through with, celebrate it, whatever the ideas and artistic impulse that's come to me. And if that's all that happens, that's more than enough. Right? But because I am so interested in and I value community, that it has to be shared. Now, how it's shared, right? It can be shared. I can write it, slide it to you, right? I can read it at an open mic. I can send it off to be published somewhere. I can put it in a collection of books. But capitalism is what starts happening that says, well, you're not a real poet if you didn't win the National Book of Poetry. That's the Oscars.
Yeah.
for poets and writers, right? It's like, who all is going to win those? It's going to be a limited amount of people, period. So that's not the why. The why is your discovery. Why is your pleasure, your joy in it? That's enough. Follow that. Now, what I promise you is when you follow, you figure out what it is. You know, I've heard several people say it before, but you figure out what you would do for free. What you would do for free. Somebody call you and say, hey, we're gonna go and do this, that. Yep, I'm there, I'll be there early, whether you pay me or not. Lean into that. And that is the path that you are supposed to be on. Yes. So I tell you, it's all right. If you are taking, you know, if you're writing, like, you know what, I'm writing, but I actually see myself sharing my art in a different way, or maybe my writing starts looking like a different genre than I had originally planned. Follow that. Follow it. There's no wasted learning opportunity. It all feeds an hour. There's no losses, only lessons. And there is no wasted education. So I know if when people start coming in, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? You're gonna waste your time on this and that. That's capitalism talking. That's not the word for your work. That's the question.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, of course, please take classes. But yeah.
There's no wasted education. Truly, if you want to take, you know, you're in a degree program right now, you have your, you know, required credits that you need to get to fulfill that. But you also want to take this continuing ed class that's doing something really cool and different. Do it too. Join a club. Join a club that's doing something that you've never done before. Try everything. You don't have to run myself. Idris Elba, you know Idris Elba, right? Great actor, does a lot of stuff. You know he's a DJ, right? And he loves it. He loves it. And people are like, oh, well, you're really, no. He's really an award-winning actor and a DJ. Do all the things that you want to do. It's your life. It's your one life.
I was thinking about myself as an undergrad and signing on to be a creative writing major. And then when I signed on for the astronomy class, all the advisors wanted to know what I was doing. And I couldn't explain to them how much of a science nerd I am with the involves planets. And they're like, I'm there for it. And look how it feeds your poetry. It's fun. Such a space nerd and my stuff. Yeah, there's something about these kind of parameters that are placed upon us. And we are studying art. We'll often find ourselves kind of bumping up against those parameters. Like, yes, I need to do these things for the degree. We forget about the living first, right? Like seeking the things that give us joy and contentment before we do this.
And you're also, whatever the long-term goal is, you know, you're not gonna go from entry-level coursework to that finished thing in the course of your degree plan, right? You're gonna do all of your work to build up your skills when you study, you know, and then you'll be able to apply those. But you might be doing something very different. I would tell folks all the time, and students especially, do what gets you closest against that thing that you would do for free. Right? Do whatever will get you close to that. So if you're taking your, I want to do this job and I like doing it, it's gonna make me money, but I also want to do this thing. Find how you can merge them. Find how they can overlap. I promise you right now, every career needs writers. It needs writers. So you can be writing and in a different career, but also the beautiful thing about being a poet and a writer is you can have a career and much like you said, it's going to just feed into your work. Richard Blanco is an engineer. He was also the inaugural poet for President Obama's second inauguration. Right? Queer Cuban American poet from Miami. He's an engineer by trade and also one of the greatest poets on the planet. One of the best compliments I ever got from a poet I really admire was that I'm living the life of a great poet. And all that means is that you're living. But know the difference between living and being alive. Those are two different things. Make sure you're living.
What are you writing with them? Who are you praising?
I think that's a real question. Anyone want to share?
Everyone from the coffee farm all the way to my cup this morning. Every single hand.
Every single hand.
Every single hand.
Nice.
From the farm to the cup. Yes.
The roaster to the people who made the machine.
Yeah. Oh, I see. I even forget about the person making the machine.
Yes.
Forget about that. And the person who has to tool the machine together.
And what about the people and the families at home that took care of the home so that they could go to work to make the thing?
Every single one.
Anyone else? Who are you praising? Your mom? Would you like to share with it? Oh, nice. Breakfast. What'd you have? Next,
Breakfast with mom, a little biased mom over here. That's awesome.
Lovely. Thank you. Anyone else? Who are you praising? Yeah, Becca.
All the strangers that I come in contact with.
All the strangers you come in contact with?
Just anybody could have thought.
Yeah. Yeah. That moment that we make eye contact with someone, right? We're moving so quickly in the world. Sometimes we're looking down at our phones in that space, but like, it's a wonderful thing to think about how many humans you actually contact by just looking in the eyes as you go through.
That's my road.
Thank you.
I love that. It's true. We make eyes with little pleasantries. Who holds the door open for you? Who you held the door open for? Like those are the little moments that get us through life, right? I was gonna share some anecdotes in the happening. I mean, remember we are all on the same plane. Here, we're all trying to live, we're alive, stay alive, live, survive, and thrive. Like we're all trying to do those things, right? And I was meeting a friend recently at Hank's, and we finished our brunch. And I was just walking to the bathroom, and this woman was sitting with her grandkids. I assume they're grandkids, but she had her phone out, and just that fast she saw me and did like this. And I walked past the booth, and I was like, she wants a picture with her grandkids. Let me double, and I just kind of laid back and said, you want a picture? And she said, yes, please. And so I took the picture, took the photos, took a couple, the angles, and all the things, and gave it back to her. And then I went onto the bathroom, and as I'm coming out of the bathroom, another woman passes me, and she goes, "You're the poet Laureate, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "I saw you in conversation with Nikki Giovanni last year." I said, "Yes, you did." Thanks for coming. Saying hello, but it's like, yes, there's no time when you're somebody that can't do whatever. It's always a moment of kindness. We are in this together, Praise everyone who set this up. Set up the chairs, make sure the lights are on, make sure the room is clean, right? Praise everyone, because it takes all of us to get through this thing called life. And we're all strangers, right? We're all strangers until we meet each other. Yeah.
Anyone else have to share this? Who you're praising today? Yeah, who are you praising?
I have a coworker who I barely talked to, but, he was listening to some of my conversations. One day I came in and he handed me a book of English poetry, and he's like, I think you really like this. And, later when I looked through it, he circled poems that he liked personally, and he wrote little notes, and it was like probably the single nicest thing another person has done. And this is a person who we had never shared a full conversation before. And we're both there to be money so we can live.
Yeah, and this person's offering the gift of words, right? And I love that idea that this person had like circled these like, I like these, I don't know if you will, but I like these things, right? Offering the street. Amazing.
So the next thing I will encourage you to do with your writings, share them with people. It takes a little bit of bravery, but what you fear is not whether or not your poem is read. You fear judgment. You fear, well, you think this is good, will you laugh at me, right? I'm telling you right now, just like you expressed with how grateful you were for that gift from someone you barely talked to, right? The gifts, when we give them, always receive love. You know? And my God, what conversations and connections that can make. So I invite you to be brave and share that piece. Give those flowers to that person in real time today.
I would argue there's also that fear of opening yourself up when the other person opening up as well. Like seeing that love and attention actually reflected back to us. Like there's something about how afraid we are to take honest emotion, to have it come back to us, and we don't necessarily know what to do with it.
It's powerful. It is so powerful, but once it starts happening, you know, embrace it. I was at a reading at Texas State, and there was a young student after the reading, she came up and just started crying. And I said, so now we're gonna cry together. And I started crying, and we were just hugging each other, because that's what happens when you have those moments of genuine connection and love and visibility and being seen. Maybe for the first time in a long time, you don't know what someone else is going through, right? But don't deny yourself that. I get it. Yeah, that being hesitant to open yourself up and then someone else open up. But that is the connection. That is love. And you all deserve to have it. You know what it feels like.
I want to thank you all for being here with us today. I want to thank Daryl is back there, Daryl. I want to thank Dr. Williams for letting us be here in this amazing, wonderful center. If this is your first time here, please come back again. It's an amazing space for community. I want to thank you all for being willing to be in communion with us in this space and be willing to share your thoughts, your love, your security with us. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Let's thank Prudence and the Creative Life.